So let's dive in deadlock here and let's talk a little bit about character and kind of the opening here, the introduction or the reintroduction to Des for people who've read the first book. Like I mentioned, one of the first things that struck me with this, with your writing and especially with Des's character, is just his unique voice, this like playful, happy-go-lucky, like laid back, even in the most tense situations. And I'm wondering, I mean, you mentioned some authors who you've read in this genre who write characters that are very different than Des and are kind of like typical of the crime protagonist. So what was it about Des's voice? Were you searching for it, or did you just kind of find it and thought like this would be a great voice for this genre?
In an earlier draft, he was from Texas. Then he was from New York. He was 25. He was 55. He was an ex-cop. He was an ex-criminal. He had lots of different names. And it was the day that I realized he had a British accent. It clicked. And I sometimes think of this as the Rumpelstiltskin effect. You have to have the right name for your character. And I really wanted a name that wasn't, you read this genre, there's a lot of Jacks and Jakes and Dons, and there's a whole bunch of names that get repeated. And I wanted a name no one else was using. And I came up with this completely over the top, ridiculous name, Desmond Aloysius Limerick. And then I realized he was from England. And I thought, well, it'd be sort of fun if he's just talks too much. He's just loquacious. He just chats and chats and chats and chats until, like, when police officers are speaking to him and finally they say, will you shut up? You told me more than I needed to know. So that was the first thing I thought was, let's just make this guy loquacious. He just blathers. Second thing I wanted to do, I'm going to word this carefully because I'm not sure about your audience. I really wanted a character who, when he had the opportunity for sex with a woman, is uncool. He lacks any cool whatsoever. He's instantly 15 years old. And the opportunity to have sex, he's like, oh, that would be great. We'll do that. Yeah, just do that. He's the least cool protagonist around sex I've ever read in one of these things. He's the anti-James Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was super fun to do because I just had never seen it before. And all told, once I had the name and I had that he was English and I had that he was loquacious, then the voice came like fast.
And so is that something that happened during a first draft? Like you mentioned, you write that first draft pretty quickly. I mean, is that something that you just had a couple false starts until you found the voice and then it ran? Or is that something you're kind of backtracking and then filling in?
Yeah, I did drafts when he was other guys, including pretty laconic guys and pretty angsty guys. And I kept thinking, yeah, I got to be honest with you. Mark Graney's doing this better than I am. Nick Petrie does this better than I do. Greg Hurwitz does this better than I do. I can't do what they do, and I'm not better than them in that. So this guy's got to be different. And so once I figured out that voice, and it was like in a very, very early draft it was the very first time we meet Des in modern time. He's in Los Angeles and he foils a kidnapping. That was the first scene I ever wrote. And I thought, boy, this guy's a lot of fun. This is great. I want to see what happens next. And then there was a scene where he was talking to the police officers and they couldn't get him to shut up. He visits a lot of interrogation rooms in these books because that's his lifestyle. And then, boy, it started to flow really fast from that scene on.